Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai. Double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim out there on the highways and byways, pushing the truth across the four corners of the earth, trying to wake up the remaining hope of the elect. This is Naaman with the DC camp. And this video here, while we have this situation going on down on the Texas-Mexico border. All right, this has been going on for a very long time. I mentioned that in passing in my last video. Um, Again, our people are that burdensome stone to these devils. That's Zechariah 12:3. But what we have here also for this video, try to get you to accept the fact that slavery never ended. You know, despite all that bullshit that you learned in school, your indoctrination, hopefully what I show you here is that, hey, it's many layers to this onion, this web of lies, and it's got a lot of our people caught up in this so-called American dream. It's really a nightmare. And the gaslighting. You know, our people are so heavily manipulated. It's sad. People outside of us, they see this, but hey, it benefits them. Let's just accept it. We're the only group really that, Zechariah 11 really is about us, because the people that are supposed to represent us, turns out they represent everybody else but us. This is Zechariah 11:5. This is an oldie but goodie. It says, whose possessors slay them, our oppressors, and hold themselves not guilty. If you don't know that by now, I don't know what else to tell you. And they that sell them say, blessed be the Most High, for I am not rich. And their own shepherds, our own, those that are supposed to be looking out for us, pity them not. All we have is sellouts, the congressional black talkers, because that's all they do. And I believe it's in their charter about their helping, I'm just paraphrasing here, to benefit everyone. But when you look at other people's charters, people that come over here, they don't include us. Wow. Let's go ahead and roll this video for time's sake. As you're going to see here, things never really change. They just become slicker about what they do and how they do it. Here we go.
Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the moment of truth. The plague of anti-black racism is nationwide, and no place in America has a monopoly on it, but the South in general, and Louisiana in specific, is uniquely evil, mainly because the racists down there found ways to hide their evil in plain sight. And the racism has been enshrined in its so-called law enforcement facilities, which is the chief apparatus that carries it out. Take, for instance, Angola State Penitentiary. It used to be a plantation, and it's still used for that very purpose to this very day. Angola has been using its prisoners as forced labor for many of the biggest corporations on earth.
Yeah, several movies highlight this. If you remember, one was that 1998, Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence and Life. That was Parchman Prison down in Mississippi. Angola, of course, in Louisiana. And then in Arkansas, you had Tucker and Cummins. You had the movie Brubaker. I believe it was 1979 or 1980 when it came out. That was with Robert Redford and the Jake that just passed, was it last year before last, Yafeth Kodo. He was from Cameroon. And then you had, who else was in that? David Keith. Who else? It was basically an all-star cast for that, almost an all-star cast for that time period. But of course they couldn't make it in Arkansas, but it's one of those prison genre classics. Uh, it was based on a true story, of course, but Hollywood takes liberty. But the original story goes how the guy that would be the warden came from Alaska, and he was known as a reformer, but they didn't want that, of course. So the movie would tell you that he went undercover as a prisoner. Hell no, that was Robert Redford, to see what the fuck was going on. I mean, it makes for an entertaining movie, but that's not how it really happened. You'd be really stupid and crazy to do that, because you can't control the situation, really. But again, it's one of those classics. But the way they do the prisoners, and then when it comes to our people, the dirty shit that they did in order to get Jake in the system in the first place. See, they keep saying, well, we're tired of hearing, slavery. That was such a long time ago. But the thing is, you never stopped. It's a continual thing. Yes, chattel slavery. Excuse me for my voice. Yes, chattel slavery ended in 1865. But what about everything that happened after that? That's what they failed to consider, and Jake needs to maybe choose their words more carefully, because it's not about slavery. That's included, yes, but everything that happened afterwards, because you never gave our people a chance, all right, to seek life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for us. All right, you cut us off at the ankles, at the knees, whatever. All right, anytime we improved ourselves, uplifted ourselves, sabotage, and it's documented. But anyway, back to this. I don't want to ramble. Continuing on.
McDonald's and Cargill, which is America's largest private company, and of course no list of degenerate corporations would be complete without Walmart. And this isn't the first time that Walmart's been embroiled in something like this. Some of you may remember that Walmart got caught several years back having hundreds of illegal aliens working for it. The feds caught them red-handed, but they said there would be no criminal charges because the corrupt executives at Walmart were, quote, cooperating, and promised they would take strong action to prevent this in the future. By the way, next time you have a brush with the law, go ahead and tell the authorities that you want to cooperate, and you'll take strong action to prevent your criminality in the future. See how well that works out for you. Now, that incident with Walmart was a one-off, and when the feds found out, they stopped it eventually. But where the treatment of black people in America is concerned, they aren't even saying boo about it. This is modern-day slavery. And the pool is pretty much entirely black prisoners forced to work on farms and slaughterhouses, among other industries. They work for pennies or often nothing at all. And this is big business. You have the slave labor forced to work for the enrichment of such companies and brands as Frosted Flakes, Ballpark Hot Dogs, Tyson Foods, Gold Medal Flour, Coca-Cola, Riceland, and those products wind up at the biggest retailers on earth, like Walmart, Kroger's, Target, Aldi, and Whole Foods. And understand something. Kroger's owns a lot of supermarket chains like Ralph's, Dillon's, Smith's, King Soopers, Fry's, QFC, City Market, Owens, JC, Payless, Baker's, Gerb's, Harris Teeter, Pick and Save, Metro Market, and Mariano's. See, Kroger's has quietly been taking over the grocery store industry in America, and they did it by buying out their competitors, but not changing the names of the stores. So people still think that their favorite Ralph's is locally owned, but it's not. So when they say Kroger's, we're not just talking about Kroger's stores specifically. It also includes all those supermarket chains that they bought up over the years. And you got Frosted Flakes, that's owned by the Kellogg's Corporation. Go back in the archives on this channel and check out the reparations series that I did a couple of years back. As part of that, I dealt with the universities and their ties to slavery and eugenics. One of the big financial contributors to Yale's eugenics program was John Henry Kellogg, the man who started Kellogg's cereal. And to this day, his company is still making money off the dehumanization and destruction of black people. Perhaps Tony the Tiger should adopt a new slogan: slavery, it's great! And you got Whole Foods, the company that charges outrageous prices for their food because they claim that it's all organic or something. They made their money appealing to cash-fluid suburban and white middle-class types. I know some of you may be on a health kick, so next time you go to Whole Foods, you can think about where some of their stuff comes from. The meat from the livestock raised by those Angola prisoners wound up in the country's biggest fast food chains, supermarkets, and meat exporters, including Sam's Club, Tyson Foods, and Burger King. And speaking of Burger King, some incarcerated workers with just a few months or years left on their sentences have been made to work at restaurant chains like Burger King, as well as major retail stores and meat processing plants. Unlike work crews picking up litter in orange jumpsuits, they go largely unnoticed, often wearing the same uniforms as their civilian counterparts. So when you go to Burger King, you might want to ask yourself, are the people there just working for slave wages? Or are they slaves of the state too? But it doesn't stop there. Many of these products of this prison slave labor are exported to foreign countries, including countries which claim to block products from the U.S. made with prison labor. So just as during chattel slavery, everyone's getting rich off of our enslavement. They'll lie and claim that they aren't, but when you follow the money, you see there's a whole lot of people who are in on it.
Yep.
Now, how is this allowed to happen? These companies are violating their own so-called policies by even doing this, but as we all know, corporate rules only...
Everybody devours us. We are prey. We are prey. Other people that come over here, they adopt this white supremacist mindset. They jump on that bandwagon. All right. Like, aren't you tired of this shit? I'm hoping, praying that this shit on the border, Texas-Mexico border, just jumps off because, hey, there is going to be a civil war. All right, there's no getting around that. All right, because America, as some of us growing up knew it, has long since been dead. All right, and it's only going to keep falling. Let's see, what was I trying to get? Hold on. This is Jeremiah 50. I think I'll start at 6. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. All right, remember I just read Zechariah 11:5. Our own shepherds pity us not, right? They're sellouts. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from one mountain to the hill. They have forgotten their resting place. All that found them have devoured them. And their adversaries said, we offend not, because they have sinned against the Most High, whose name is Yahweh. The habitation of justice, even the Most High Yahweh, the hope of their fathers. All right, for those of you who have to keep bringing this fact, this is the Most High's name, Yahweh. When you ever see Lord in all caps, that's who it's talking about, the self-existent or eternal one. All right, so let's go back to the video.
Violating their own so-called policies by even doing this. But as we all know, corporate rules only apply to employees. Everything else is just words. Though as black people, we know exactly why this is legal. It's because slavery in America was never abolished. All the government did was to outlaw private sector slavery. So Sam White could no longer own slaves, but Uncle Sam or some other state law enforcement agency could. And that's exactly what they've been doing for 150 years.
We've become wards of the government. Here are 2 reasons why. The first is called the Corwin Amendment. All right, this is what I was looking for the last. I finally found it. All right, the Corwin Amendment. Remember this: enslavement and Abraham Lincoln. The Corwin Amendment, also called the Slavery Amendment, lets you know how close this was. But what they did, the sly devils that they are, they just reworded it. All right, just put it in a different suit to present it. It says, was a constitutional amendment passed by Congress in 1861, but never ratified by the states, that would have banned the federal government from abolishing the institution of slavery in the states where it existed at the time. Considering it a last-ditch effort to prevent the looming Civil War, supporters of the Corwin Amendment hoped it would prevent the southern states that had not already done so from seceding from the Union. Ironically, Abraham Lincoln did not oppose the measure. Let me read that again. This is the one you're taught to revere in history. Abraham Lincoln, he freed the slaves. You should be grateful, you black people should be. Let me read it again. Considering it a last-ditch effort to prevent the looming civil war. That's the important thing here. That's what they were concerned about, and that's all they were concerned about. It wasn't because they were so benevolent toward us. Hell no. Supporters of the Corn Amendment hoped it would prevent the southern states that had not already done so from seceding from the Union. Ironically, Abraham Lincoln did not oppose the measure. The amendment was conceived by outgoing President James Buchanan as a way to prevent a civil war. That's a story on him in and of itself. Had it been ratified, the Corn Amendment would have prohibited the federal government from abolishing enslavement in the states where it existed at the time. While not technically endorsing the Corn Amendment, Abraham Lincoln did not oppose it. Prematurely labeled as the 13th Amendment, see? The Corn Amendment was one of 3 attempts to resolve the secession crisis between Lincoln's election in November 1860. Slovakia. All right. And the attack on Fort Sumter in April 1861. The Crittenden Plan and the Washington Peace Convention had been rejected by Republicans who felt it yielded too much to the enslavement interest and snubbed the central plank of the Republican platform, which opposed the extension of enslavement. All right, the text of the Corn Amendment. The operative section of the Corn Amendment states, "No amendment shall be made to the Constitution which will authorize or give to Congress the power to abolish or interfere within any state with the domestic institutions thereof." What is the main domestic institution that we're talking about? It's slavery. Including that of persons held to labor or service by the laws of said state. In referring to enslaved as domestic institutions, and persons held to labor or service rather than by the specific word slavery, the amendment reflects wording in the draft of the Constitution considered by delegates to the Constitutional Convention of 1787, which referred to enslaved people as person held to service. He's slick motherfuckers, boy, I tell you. All right. We'll come back to this because there was also another one that another senator proposed. All right, and we'll go back to that after some more on this video.
But Uncle Sam or some other state law enforcement agency could, and that's exactly what they've been doing for 150 years. All they have to do is merely accuse you of a crime, and they can coerce you into forced labor. This has been going on nonstop since the alleged end of chattel slavery, and the U.S. government has been giving it a wink and a nod because this is state policy. In fact, you don't even have to be a prisoner to be forced into slave labor. As the AP reports, some people arrested in Alabama are put to work even before they've been convicted. An unusual work release program accepts pretrial defendants, allowing them to avoid jail while earning bond money. But with multiple fees deducted from their salaries, that can take time. See, that's what you call debt peonage. For people who try to claim that there's no debtors' prisons in the U.S., that's a lie. Just like saying there's no slavery in the U.S. And like any form of...
See how cunning and crafty these devils are? They never abolished anything. They just, like I said, presented it, polished it, dressed it up in a different way, and then presented it. Oh, this is more palatable. You know, we don't call it slavery. We this is how this damn devil works, man. It's sad that that's why this people that I'm talking about, the nation of Edom primarily, they have to be brought down out of power. They're not going to give this up willingly. So yes, you're going to have a civil war because it affects all this that's going on with the economy, with these devils pretending to be us, all right, being exposed for the perverts that they are. Not only perverts, but just murderers, thieves, and any other degenerate thing you can think of. That's them, and they're being exposed for it. All right. So this reality that had been presented to the world, this image of these people running around all black, the Orthodox ones, looking all fucking afflicted, and just stupid, really. Now they're being found out, and now they're trying to hurry things up. So, real shortly here, all the things that we told you as far as you're seeing it in Whole Foods. Amazon owns Whole Foods, and who owns Amazon? These people are juiced in. So they probably not probably, they're going to institute a new so-called pandemic, and people are going to be shut down and shut up, and then you're going to be released again, and now you're going to have you can't use physical money anymore. Now everything's going to be digital. Watch. Back to the video.
Slavery, they make sure that there's harsh punishments to make certain that nobody thinks about not complying.
Yep.
Those who refuse can find their chances for parole taken away and be sent to solitary confinement. But that's only the beginning of the strong-arm tactics they use. One former Angola prisoner spent 51 years enslaved in Angola. He witnessed men working with little or no water and passing out in triple-digit heat. Just as during slavery, the black prisoners would throw down their tools, knowing full well what the consequences would be. As Mr. Ingram put it, they'd come, maybe 4 in the truck, shields over their face, billy clubs, and they'd beat you right there in the field. They'd beat you, handcuff you, and beat you again. Mr. Ingram protested his innocence for his entire incarceration. He pleaded guilty to a crime he says he didn't commit, and he only pleaded because prosecutors told him that he would serve 10.5 years and avoid a death penalty if he did. Instead, they kept him locked up for half a century. Another former prisoner, Calvin Thomas, gave an account that reflected Mr. Ingram's. Mr. Thomas said anyone who refused to work, or who didn't produce enough, or who merely stepped outside of the long rows of crops would be punished. Quote, if he shoots the gun in the air because you done passed that line, that means you're going to get locked up and you're going to have to pay for that bullet that he shot. Thomas also added that some days were so blisteringly hot, the guards' horses would collapse. And these accounts sound like they came straight out of the slave narratives, don't they? Sounds like something you would have heard from some black folks who were liberated from those plantations. But of course, these are the slave narratives because slavery never stopped. That's why the stories are no different. And because we let politicians and bootlicks and self-serving sellouts tell us, oh, things have changed, we con ourselves into believing that slavery is over when it's not. This is what's going on right now in America and has been going on for 150 years. What nobody talks about is how much these companies pay to these politicians, both Democrat and Republican, in the form of campaign donations to make sure that this process continues, and how many of these politicians have family members who are given patronage jobs at these corporations. How many of these racist sheriffs and prison wardens own stock in these companies that they compel slave labor for. How many of the politicians do? How many of these judges who hand down these long sentences and prosecutors are also involved? All of these people are not just keeping all of these black folks enslaved for nothing. They're doing it because they get paid off of it. Farms and slaughterhouses are just the beginning, though. This slave labor is forced to work on everything from mattresses to solar panels. Those of you who bought a bed recently, or who got solar panels installed on your roof because you get tax rebates for it, you might want to ask about the high price of those tax rebates, and if the people who you bought these things from can certify that they weren't made with prison labor. The ACLU put out a report saying that the slave labor tied to these goods and services brought in more than $2 billion in 2021 alone. And that doesn't even count the money from work release and other programs from local jails. Joe Biden's crime bill, along with other legal measures over the decades, has fueled and turbocharged America's prison industrial complex, which is and has always been part of the corporate industrial complex.
And you idiots voted for that motherfucker. And some of you still want to vote for him again. That's why 2/3 of our people got to go. They got to go. And you want to call Trump a racist?
Of course, the government gets their cut in the form of taxes for this ill-gotten gain. This is nationwide, and these are partnerships between corporations and governments. It's nationwide, including in Nikki Haley's state of South Carolina, but of course, she doesn't think America's a racist country. Sure, the people, the businesses, and the government are racist as hell, but that doesn't mean anything. And yeah, they're carrying on slavery right up to the present, but that doesn't mean anything either. That's not racist, mind you. This is why we need reparations. The evils that we were subjected to never stopped. Anyone who tells you that, like Nikki Haley, is lying.
Well, that's true, but you're not going to get those type of reparations. Here's the reparations we want. All right? And we're going to get. All that other stuff, because you got to remember, he's still in rulership. No, we want this right here. This is Revelation 13 and 10. It says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. That's it. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Now, this is in the book of Revelation. All right. Now let's go to Nehemiah. Oh, Nehemiah. Let's go to Numbers 35 and 33. All right. Let's see. So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. Ever since these pieces of shit, these so-called white people, so-called, they are of the nation of Edom. That's their biblical nationality that they've tried to keep, stay away from. All right. Ever since they got here, they shed the blood of what? The saints. Who are the saints? The Israelites. Who are the Israelites that we're talking about? Northern Kingdom. All right. So-called North American Indians of various tribes. Amongst, and then the Reubenites, all right? Also, those north of America, in the Canadian provinces, and all those lands south of the United States, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, South America, all the way to Argentina, the tip of it. Those are Israelites. All right, that story is in 2 Kings 17th chapter and 2 Ezra 13 and 40. All right, on down. All right, so yeah, all the blood on this land, that's why this place is to be sacrificed. This place is done. All the evil that's happened here.
The evils that we were subjected to never stopped. Anyone who tells you that, like Nikki Haley, is lying. This is why we're owed reparations, and anyone who tries to get our vote or anything else from us without paying this is illegitimate and doesn't deserve consideration, much less our support. And that includes these bootlicks who are out here campaigning for them. Your Congressional Black Caucus has been seeing all of this happen. Cedric Richmond, who was in the Biden administration, he's from Louisiana, South Louisiana, in fact. He's from right down there where all this has been happening. And what's he said about it? While Biden was talking about so-called criminal justice reform, did anyone mention this? Did Cedric Richmond? Has the Congressional Black Caucus? This is the devil's bargain you have to make with white supremacy when you choose to become a bootlick. You have to pledge to offer up Black America as a human sacrifice for a plate of butter biscuits. You shouldn't have to have these prisoners, though former slaves would be more accurate, filing class action lawsuits against this, but they are. There should be legislation pending about this decades ago. Instead of asinine displays like that sit-in on the floor of the House of Representatives, they should be doing sit-ins to stop the ongoing slave trade happening right here in the U.S. But then again, how would you expect the people who wrote the laws and who defend the system to actually tear it down? You don't have to go to the third world to find people enslaved and pressed into forced labor. You got it going on right here. And these worthless sellouts you see telling us to vote for Biden are doing nothing about it and saying nothing about it. Oh, but they want for us to vote for Biden because he's going to improve things. He just isn't doing it now or ever. The system of slave labor that powers these corporations and flows upwards to these political parties is also the same economic rewards that the black misleadership class in D.C. looks for too. Well, we don't look for it and we're not dependent on it. And even if they offered us money, we wouldn't take 1 red cent. There's no amount of money that can justify or make me compromise on slavery, and I know you feel the same way. I want you to remember what's going on. When we talk about reparations, it's not simply about things that happened 150 years ago. It is about the continuing enslavement and brutalization of black people going on right up to the present. Well, we're not going to let anyone forget about this. No matter what this white supremacist injustice system may accuse these black prisoners of, we recognize that protecting and continuing anti-black racism is the greatest crime of all. Good day, and be one.
There you go. But still, especially this time now, you got to hear about what? The hollow hoax. Why? Because they needed to invent that story. Because they knew that, hell, they financed the slave trade. They knew who we were. So they gotta present to you this sob story. Oh, we were 6 million of us, and the shit never happened like that. And they've gotten rich off of that lie. Actually, they got rich long before that, but man, this place gotta go. Oh, I had mentioned that I was going to show you something else regarding those amendments. Let's see. What's the other one? Let's see. That's Corwin. Let's see. This guy here. The 13th Amendment nearly preserved slavery with Lincoln's support. This one was, what was this guy's name? Crittenden. Wait a minute. Trumbull politics. Hold on. All right, we got Corwin. Let's see. His name was Crittenden. I done got the wrong one. Hold on. I done lost it. I apologize. I lost it. I had it. Oh man. Yeah, I lost it. His name was Crittenden. But in any case, yeah, this is it for this video. Yeah, we want out of here. We want. Let me get this last scripture here, because like I said at the onset, we are prey here. This is, and if you're not in that mindset, these people he mentioned, these bootlicks, they're just that. They're not interested, and they want to stay here. These are these Luke chapter 6, verse 24 and 25 people, all right? And for my own community, so-called. Remember those shepherds, right? Zechariah 11th chapter. This is Isaiah 49:24. Shall the prey be taken from the mighty, or the lawful captive delivered? But thus saith the Most High Yahweh, even the captives of the mighty shall be taken away, and the prey of the terrible shall be delivered. For I will contend with him that contendeth with thee, and I will save thy children. So that's the hope that we have. That's the faith in this right here. All right, fuck, reparations, a bunch of debt notes. And then when they do that, they're about to change everything to digital. So even if they did, you're going to have to make that decision. Revelation 13, verse 16 and 17. That's not going to go anywhere. Hey, we got to get up out of here. And this is the mindset that you should be in. Although the next two chapters over, verse 14 here, it says, the captive exile hasteneth that he may be loosed, and that he should not die in the pit, nor that his bread should fail. This is the mindset you should be in, because this place is gone. 2 Peter 3, verse 10 and 11 also applies to this, because all this shit is going to be blown to smithereens, as the saying goes. So with that, once again, I want to remind everybody to pray, all right, especially because of these times coming up here. Literally, the bottom could fall out from under. I mean, this is just how close we are to complete chaos and anarchy. Prayer, people, prayer, brothers, and the Akim and the few Akwath that happen to see this. Prayer is very important. So with that, until the next video, shalom.